Welcome to our program. I'm your host, Chris Spurlock. A 2-year-old in Rochester, New York plays with matches starting an unintentional fire that takes his life and the lives of 5 other family members. An arsonist goes on a burning spree, intentionally starting fires at homes throughout a neighborhood, costing homeowners thousands of dollars. Fortunately, no one dies, but many lives are endangered. What's the commonality between both of these true stories? The fact that fire was in the hands of the wrong people. These two scenarios are played out far too frequently every year in America, costing hundreds of lives and over $1 billion in property damage. First on today's show, we'll look at the issue of children and fire, why some of them play with fire, how they play with it, the effects of those unintentional fires, and steps that can be taken to remedy the problem. And later in the program, we'll discuss arson, who commits arson, where and why it's committed, and what steps you can take to protect yourself, your home, or business from being victims of arson. That's all coming up, so stay with us as we bring you the facts on fire.
This is a typical home in Portland. Residential family used to live here. A family that included mother and father and several children, ages ranging from a few months to 4 years. Investigators have suggested that there's evidence to show that the fire started in the boys' bedroom, the boys being ages 22 months and 3 years. The evidence shows that there was a lighter involved, a lighter that was very easily operated by very young children. The fire started in the boys' bedroom, spread quickly to the parents' bedroom and the rest of the house. Parents woke up to find fire leaping into their rooms. The father made an attempt to rescue the 2 boys. The fire was so intense and it was so hot that he was unable to do so. In the process, he burned his hands, and his hands still show the scars of his attempt to get to the 2 boys. The 2 other children were rescued by the parents. And in looking back at the house and the smoke and how hot it was at the time, I think they're all very fortunate to be able to get out of the house.
A house fire, a fully involved house fire, there is no place to hide, period. I looked in the closets, I looked under the beds, I looked in the typical places that a kid will go and hide in a fire, and they weren't there. By the time I got around to the back door, actually the last place that I searched, we were moving burned material. There were burned doors falling. The mattress was in pieces. We moved that. It was involved, still burning. The last place I looked, just to the right, and actually I felt, that's the worst part about it, especially kids. And my hand came into contact with the leg of one of the children that was in the corner, and what they had done was just covered up in a fetal position and moved into the corner of the room. And we kind of remarked, when I was talking to Doug, that these kids should have had time to get out. Apparently, they had started the fire and not been able to escape. I don't know whether their parents had covered escape routes with them or what, but I found them in the corner, huddled right next to each other. I heard that they were about 2 and 3 years old. Their first instinct was to hide.
The bodies of the boys were found after the fire was out. The bodies were found here in this corner by one of the firemen. They were hiding behind a chair, a small chair, in an attempt to get away from the fire. I'd like to ask you some questions. Are you parents with young children? Do your children know the proper use of matches and lighters? Do they know that these things are tools and not toys to play with?
It's a danger parents can never overlook: fire in the hands of children. Fire set by young children in the United States annually results in nearly 68,000 fires. Joining me today is Fire Prevention Chief Chris Kaufman. Chris, that's a lot of fires.
Yes, it is.
Perhaps you've had a story, or you can tell us a story about a fire you've responded to that was the result of young children playing with fire.
Yes, Chris, I had a 4-year-old boy, picked up a lighter that the parents left out on the table, went into his room and lit the mattress on fire. The smoke detector went off. Luckily, he had a disabled relative that was living in another bedroom. 911 was called. We was able to respond and rescue the disabled relative, and no one was actually hurt by the fire.
Now, I know all children are fascinated by fire, but not all of them become fire setters. What stage do they go through that causes them, or some of the stages of becoming a fire setter?
Well, you have the age group from 2 to 10 years old. It's usually a fire interest category. Those children are curious. They have no idea how destructive fire can be. In most cases, those are the age groups that look for the lighters or matches and will go off and play with them.
Okay, Chris, what are some other stages they may go through in becoming a fire setter?
Well, you also have the trouble fire starter stage, which would be the second stage. It's mostly boys. They're acting out of anger, frustration, or depression. Then you have the third category, which is the fire setter category. It's usually delinquent or criminal activity. Most of these teenagers have a criminal record of drug abuse, some kind of criminal activity in their background.
And let's look at the case where a high school student starts a fire in hopes that by alerting everyone to the fire, he's recognized as a hero. What category would that individual fall into?
Well, he would be considered a fire setter. In most cases, he's actually acting out and crying for help. So he's looking for some kind of intervention.
Okay, Chris, before we go any further, let's differentiate between arson and other types of fire.
Well, arson is an intentionally set fire. You also have where a juvenile may have been playing with fire, and it actually would be classified as an unintentional fire. So it's really not, even though it was intentionally set, it wouldn't be considered to be an arson fire.
Okay, and what are some things parents should be looking for in the way of strange behavior, possibly?
Well, mood changes, angered, in some cases new friends, the type of clothing maybe that the child's wearing. So the parent really needs to be aware of what their child's doing and who they're hanging with.
Okay, now can you give us some numbers on fires started by children and some of the effects it's had on the community?
There's been over 68,000 fires in the United States started unintentionally by fire setters. There's been about 200 to 300 deaths caused by these fires. There's over $235 million in property loss, and there's 1,800 injuries that were caused by these fires. And what's the sad part of this is all these fires could have been preventable.
Thank you, Chief, for that valuable information. When we come back, we'll talk about parents, what they can do to help prevent needless fires, tragedies caused by child fire setters. But first, we'll take a break.
Here's a spot quiz. See if you know the right answers. First, what age group is most adversely affected by fires started by children? Next, what's the most common way children usually start fires? Which is the most common room for children to start a fire? And finally, what important point do parents need to get across to children about fire? Those spot quiz answers later on. Stay tuned for more Facts on Fire.
A young lady was playing with a pencil eraser, stuck it in a space heater, got frightened, threw the pencil back behind a crack in the wall, didn't tell anyone. This, of course, ignited this residence, and everyone in the residence escaped without harm, but prior to extinguishment, caught an automobile and the two residents on both sides were involved when the first arriving engine companies got there.
Once a kid has removed that from the front of his vision in front of him, if he puts it behind him, closes the door, or hides it, he doesn't see it anymore and is out of his mind, because his mind and actually his attention span is so short. So it causes a lot of kids to play with matches, hide the fire, and go about whatever they're doing. And that's when we get problems with people dying, getting killed, hiding in closets or whatever.
Don't let your children go up in smoke. A fire safety message from the National Fire Information Council.
My dad is a hero. He goes into places normal people want to get away from. He rescues families, makes everyone safe. But the best thing he can do is come home.
The U.S. Fire Administration reminds you to protect the heroes who protect our lives. Have a smoke alarm on every floor. Test it monthly. Replace the battery yearly. Do your part to get out before they have to come in.
Welcome back to the studio. I'm with Fire Prevention Chief Kaufman, and we're talking about juvenile fire setters. Okay, Chief, we've discussed different categories of fire setters, juvenile fire setters, the death, damage, and destruction that it causes. What are some things that parents can do to actively minimize the risk of playing with fire?
Well, parents have to have some community involvement at a community level. Also, the parents are the best teachers. The parents can keep their lighters and matches up and away from children in locked cabinets and teach their kids, if they find lighters or matches, to bring the lighters and matches to them or call the adult over to pick the lighter or matches up.
And what are some other things we can do to help children understand the risk and respect fire?
Well, supervise the children. You know, if you have a birthday cake with candles, actually a campfire, something to that nature. You want to teach the children how to put the fires out and be safe about it.
And as a parent, there's some good examples we can set to, for our children?
Yes, the parent should lead by an example. They shouldn't play with fire either. The children are watching.
How about some other strategies or techniques we can use to get this message through to our children?
Well, you want to praise your children. If the child finds a lighter or a match and they call you and tell you to come pick it up, you want to praise them for the good action that they took.
Any other strategies or techniques?
Yes, Chris. One, just keep your children away from open flames. Also, you can play a game with your children. Have the cutouts from magazines. Take pictures that are fire safe and the ones that are not. Put them in a box. Have the child pull a picture out of the box and you ask the question, is it safe or not? For an example, a bike would be something safe, whereas if a match or a lighter would be something unsafe. And actually make it fun to learn.
How should I go about presenting that information to a young child?
Well, first of all, you want to be true. All the information that you want to give to your children is factual. They want to have confidence in their parents. And if they have confidence in you, they're going to believe everything you tell them, and they will become fire safe.
Okay, Chief, can you tell us what you've done with your family and your kids and what's seemed to work for you?
Yes, Chris. I teach this all the time in the community, and I realized I had to go home and actually educate my own family. I have 2 sons, and we have a 2-story home. And I realized I had to go home, have an escape plan. I brought the family together, and we actually drew our floor plan, discussed our 2 ways out, and we practiced. I realized that my sons needed a second way out if they were trapped upstairs, so I had to purchase a fire escape ladder. And I had to teach my oldest son to make sure that my youngest son is actually awakened, and that they actually try to get out the house together or get down to the first floor. So I had to instill the respect for fire to my own family. And in reality, we practice quite often, and I'm confident that they'll do the right thing if we have an emergency.
So it's one of those opportunities to take the job home and it'd be a good thing. I know I've preached to my little boy about dangerous since he was 2 years old. He could only understand the word dangerous, but he knows now that fire is dangerous. So if he sees smoking materials, lighters, matches or whatever, he'll point at it, Daddy, that's dangerous. So it's never too early to start.
That's correct. I mean, as early as 3 years old, it's been proven that if you teach children over and over how to escape from a house, that when the emergency does happen or the smoke alarm goes off, that they'll know what to do. So you want to practice, because the practice does make things more perfect.
Thanks, Chief Kaufman.
Thank you.
More key information for parents and community members. When we come back, we'll talk with the Chief about preparing children for safe fire escapes. Many times children get caught in buildings and don't know what to do. We'll give you those facts on fire when we return. Stay tuned.
Here are the answers to your spot quiz. First, what age group is most adversely affected by fire started by children? Most of the people killed in child-playing fires are 5 years and younger. children under the age of 10 annually account for about a quarter of all fire deaths in America. Next, what's the most common way children usually start fires? Roughly 3 out of 4 child-playing fires, and at least 4/5 of associated deaths and injuries, involve matches or lighters. Among fatal home fires started by children playing, 3 out of 5 involve children igniting bedding, mattresses, upholstered furniture, or clothing. Which is the most common room for children to start a fire? About half of fires started by children in the home are in the bedroom. And finally, what important point do parents need to get across to children about fire? Children need to know fire is not a toy, and if they find matches or lighters, they should bring them to their parents. Also, if a fire starts in the house, they have to know how to get out as quickly as possible and stay out. Make sure they understand they can't hide from fire.
When I got in the hall, smoke alarm went off. And when I got upstairs, he was trying to put the fire out.
Children have a natural curiosity about fire. You can never underestimate their ability to strike matches or start a lighter. That's what happened to the Graves family when little Tajon played with a cigarette lighter.
I had a lighter and I had a piece of paper. I took the piece of paper, I lit it, and I put it on the ashtray. And the ashtray fell.
The fire caught the floor and it went under the bed. And by that time, it just got away from me.
The chair was right here, and when I just came in, it was a little bit fire right there.
Everything was dark, I couldn't see. You can't imagine when I got in that hallway and I heard that smoke alarm go off, how I felt, because I knew they was upstairs. Once I got up here and saw that they was okay, then I was okay. You could lose everything, your child, your life, everything.
Fortunately, they got out safely.
More than 4,000 Americans die each year in fires. Nearly 80% of those happen in the home. That's why it's so important to have working smoke alarms. They can double your chances of surviving a fire. Place a smoke alarm on each level of your house. Check smoke alarms monthly to make sure they work. Change the batteries twice a year. And teach children what to do when they hear the alarm sound. Keep your home safe. Don't play with fire.
Chris, as we saw in the video, the boy was playing with fire. It got out of hand, burned the home. They had smoke detectors, smoke alarms, and luckily they were able to get out alive. It's obvious that an evacuation plan is important. What are some of the initial steps we need to take to put a plan in place?
Chris, the plan is very important. You have to maintain a working smoke detector on every level of your home. We also recommend if you can put smoke detectors inside the bedroom as well. You want to check these smoke detectors every month to make sure they're still working. In some cases, when the time changes, we recommend change your batteries in your smoke detectors. So change your clock, change your batteries.
How does an everyday person go about developing such a plan?
Well, you have to draw your floor plan of your house, make sure everyone understands the floor plan and how it's designed, and you want to mark on your floor plan 2 ways out of every room. If you're in the bedroom, obviously your second exit would be the window. And you want to have that plan well documented and practice it. You may even want to put some effects that may block someone to an exit so that they'll get the effect that if it's black or it's smoked up that they won't be able to get out the house, that they'll have a second alternate route.
So it's not just good enough to memorize it and basically commit it to memory?
No, I wouldn't say looking at it one time is going to be enough. You want to practice the plan at least twice a year. and make sure you know your way out of the house, both through the exit doors and possibly a window.
Okay, any special consideration for populations such as the elderly, younger kids?
Yes, well, you want to designate in your plan, if you have young children or disabled family members, who would be responsible for getting those persons out of the house. So you want to make that part of your plan.
Okay, that's going to be my next question. What about young kids? How do we make it easier for them to understand and learn the escape plan?
Well, you want to practice. It's been known as young as 3 years old can effectively work through their escape plan and exit themselves out of a house. So you want to practice it over and over with your family, and maybe one sibling can help another sibling through their escape plan. So sometimes you may have to team up, and you have to practice and see what works for your family, and have that meeting place outside, and have your family know that you're going to meet, in a lot of cases, by a mailbox or a neighbor's house, that everyone gets out the house safely, and then you can report the fire.
Okay, now let's say my family's familiar with the escape diagram. Are there any particular things we need to remember to do?
Well, you have to make sure that the windows operate. Check them, make sure that they're not stuck from paint, or the locks are in working order. And also, it's good to keep a whistle or a flashlight. If it's nighttime, if you're trapped in your room, you may want to have a flashlight that you can flicker or turn on so that the rescue workers know where to find you. And in some cases, if you're trapped, you open your bedroom door, you're going to check your bedroom door to see if it's hot. If it's hot, you're not going to open the door. If it's not hot and you open the door and some of the smoke starts coming into your room, you want to hurry up and close that door. So at that point, you want to take some precautions, maybe put a blanket or some kind of clothing around the cracks to prevent the smoke from getting in the bedroom.
Chris, have there been any surveys done, or are there some statistics on how people actually react to a smoke alarm?
Actually, only 4 out of 10 adults knew to leave the residence once the smoke alarm went off. In most cases, the parents need to be educated as well as the children.
So basically, lead by example, or try and set a good example for the children.
Yes.
Okay, next question. What if someone's on the second floor in the home and it's involved in fire?
Well, I go back to the fire escape ladder. You have to prepare your plan, and if you live in a 2-story home, you want to purchase a fire escape ladder that actually hooks to your window. In the event that you're blocked on the second floor, you'll be able to open the windows and exit down the ladder. And if you're trapped for some reason and can't get out the second floor, that's when we want you to actually protect yourself in that room. Don't hide from the fire. Possibly wave a colored piece of material out the window to let the fire department know where you're at and that you need to be rescued.
Okay, now this one's for young children. If they happen to actually catch on fire, or if they have to crawl or move through fire, how should they approach that?
Well, you need to practice through your escape plan how to crawl below the smoke, and you can make that fun. Use a sheet. Use the sheet, wiggle the sheet to where it looks like smoke. Have the children crawl below the sheet, and the sheet is actually simulating the smoke in the house. Keep your head about 1 or 2 feet off the ground, and that should give them the effect that they're crawling low below the smoke so that they can see and actually breathe better.
And what if they catch on fire?
Well, if they catch on fire, obviously you want to stop, drop, and roll. Always remember to cover your face, and never should you run, because the fire will get worse.
What are some other things we should know about practicing our escape?
Well, practicing an escape plan, you want to keep a few items in the home. The flashlight, the whistle. In some cases, the whistle works in 2 different ways. If you have your escape plan and your meeting place outside, you can actually use the whistle so that your family members can hear where you're at, and so they can actually come towards the noise of the whistle. Now, if you're trapped in the house and you need to be rescued, you could also use that whistle to alert someone. And the same thing applies with the flashlight. The flashlight can help you on your escape from the house, give you a little bit better sight where you have to go. And if you're trapped, use it to put the light in the window and let the fire department know where you're at if you're trapped.
And what about if you're at someone else's house? I know you've got some personal experience with this issue.
Well, exactly. I mean, if I'm gonna be in someone else's house, I'm first of all going to try to identify all the exits, ask them if they have an escape plan. In most cases, you know, the answer will be no, and you have to ask them, you know, what are you going to do in the event you have a fire? So you want to make sure that your family, your children are aware of their surroundings and identify those exits. And in some cases also even the babysitters. If they come to your residence and watching your kids, of course go over your escape plan with the babysitters and make sure they know what to do in the event they have that fire or the smoke alarm goes off.
And what if your kids happen to spend the night at someone else's house?
Well, actually, you want to make sure when you drop your kids off if the smoke detector's in working order. And make sure they have an escape plan. Ask the questions. I'd rather ask the question today if you have an escape plan or check the smoke detector to see if it's working than to ask myself the next day why I didn't ask.
Thanks, Chief. This information has saved lives before, and we have every reason to believe these tips will save more lives in the future, maybe even yours. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
So many times I've seen loss of life due to no pre-fire plan, no plan of action, or no escape route.
More people in America die from fire than all other natural disasters combined. Make sure you know the facts on fire and then make plans for a safe escape.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Wanted some matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about treetop life. Nothing very nice on a homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Let's briefly summarize some tips for helping children to respect fire wherever they encounter it. Parents should keep matches and lighters high up in locked cabinets. Have your children bring matches or lighters to you if they find them. Parents should never play with fire, as this will influence children to do the same. Be a good example of fire-safe behavior. Supervise children around birthday candles and any event that includes fire. Teach children EDITH, escape drills in the home, and have the whole family practice it at least twice a year. Calmly instruct children that they can never hide from a fire. Let them know they should get out of the house as soon as they hear the alarm and stay out. Never go back in for any reason.
It's a serious topic that disturbs even the toughest of firefighters, the loss of children to fire. Of every 100 people that die from fire, about 85 of them are children. And many of those deaths could have been prevented had children been educated not to play with fire. Be a part of decreasing the tragedy. Educate your children about the dangers of fire. Tell them how to escape and not to hide from fire. And finally, demonstrate fire safety yourself. We'll be back shortly to discuss another aspect of fire ending up in the wrong hands, in the hands of arsonists. Stay tuned for more facts on fire.
Don't let your children go up in smoke. A fire safety message from the National Fire Information Council.
Did you know that according to the latest statistics, firemen respond to fires in America every 18 seconds, and they battle almost 1.7 million fires a year? If you hear or see fire trucks or other emergency vehicles approaching, move off the road and allow them to pass. The quicker firemen get to the fire, the greater chance they have of saving life and property. Stay tuned for more facts on fire.
We had a young adult, not sure who he was or what he was, just have a description of him wearing a hood. On the last day of the year, he decides he's just going to walk down the road from about 10 till about 10:15, and he calls maybe 6, 7 fires. Set 3 houses on fire and 4 vehicles.
We had an arsonist on the loose. This person was setting multiple fires and spreading them out throughout the town, enough to deplete and to exhaust our force. We hit the streets. It was getting out of hand. We hit the streets. We went door to door, explaining to people what to look for, any strange activities, any strange people. And due to our efforts and theirs, we were able to apprehend this young man. Well, he had been incarcerated for arson prior, so served a small amount of time for his offense and got out, and it did not take him long to get right back in his groove.
It's enough to make your blood boil. People spend time and money on a home or a business, and an arsonist comes along and destroys everything in a matter of minutes. Arson is the leading cause of property loss due to fire. Over 500,000 arson fires in America cause more than $2 billion of damage annually. And worse, they kill over 700 people and injure thousands. Arson makes up a quarter of all fires, and more than half of all arsons are set by juveniles under the age of 18. It's a serious concern for our nation. What can we do to reduce the chances of being a victim of arson? After these messages, we'll find out. Stay tuned.
See whether you know the answers to this spot quiz. First, what type of structures are hit by more arson than any other type? Next, what can you do to your house to make it less attractive to arsonists? What can a business owner do to minimize chances of arson in the office building? And finally, your church wants to minimize the chances of being hit by arson. What's one thing that can be done? Those are the questions. See if you have the right answers. And stay tuned for more Facts on Fire.
My dad is a hero. He goes into places normal people want to get away from. He rescues families, makes everyone safe. But the best thing he can do is come home.
The U.S. Fire Administration reminds you to protect the heroes who protect our lives. Have a smoke alarm on every floor. Test it monthly. Replace the battery yearly. Do your part to get out before they have to come in.
Welcome back. I'm with Fire Prevention Chief Chris Kaufman, and we're discussing arson. Chief Kaufman, could you please define arson for us?
Arson's a maliciously, intentionally set fire which causes damage to one's property or even life.
Now, is that just relating to homes, or could that be vehicles or any other type of property as well?
That could be homes, vehicles, dumpsters, office buildings, even forest fires. Arson can happen anywhere, any place, and to anyone. There's about 500 fire deaths a year that are caused by arson. There's about $2 billion in property loss that is also caused by arson. And when you look at your office buildings, there's about 5,000 fires in office buildings per year.
And what type of effect does that have on our insurance premiums?
Well, obviously, the dollar loss will affect your insurance premiums.
And how about vehicle fires? Is that a big problem too?
Vehicle fires are a large problem. There's over 50,000 vehicle fires per year in the United States.
And what about children playing with fire or juvenile fire setters that set unintentional fire? Would they be considered arsonists, and is that considered arson as well?
No, it would not be considered arson. It's actually an unintentional fire. You want to detect those things at an early age, because in some cases those are the individuals that grow up to be juvenile fire setters or adult fire setters.
And what are some of the motives for arson?
Well, some arsonists just like to see things burn. In other cases, it may be for insurance money or terrorism, those type of things.
And I've heard often some people will try to cover up a crime and use arson.
That's very possible. In a lot of cases, you'll see a fire that may cover up another type of crime. That is correct.
How many arsonists are caught, or how many cases are actually where there's actually a conviction?
Well, actually, the percentage is very low. Only about 2% of your arsonists are caught. But I think with today's technology, that number will increase. The investigators are working cases with the new technology available, and I think we'll have some high statistics in the future.
And how about cell phone usage? Is that being used as another tool in the investigation?
Yes, I mean, it's actually been great to be able to track a cell phone or the cell phone towers. If someone actually intentionally set a fire and left one location and went to another and used that cell phone, we can actually track that individual in every location.
Kind of gets rid of their alibi, so to say.
Exactly, and it puts the individual in most cases on the fire scene.
Now, let's talk about victims. Are all of the victims intended victims, or are there people that just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, or a fire gets out of hand and destroys additional property of innocent people?
That happens every day. In fire service, we call that exposures. And in most cases, in a commercial building, you may have a fire in one tenant space, and it'll affect several others. And the same thing in a residential neighborhood. If there's an intentional fire in one residence, it's very possible that it can catch the house next door on fire. So you want to take some precautions.
You have some examples of maybe a case you've worked and some of the damage or the effects it has on life and property?
Chris, actually I have one case where an individual used gasoline and tried to burn their house down. Through that process, they actually burned a large percentage of their body and caused severe damage to the property. I had a second case where I had a commercial building and an individual was a client to one of the businesses, went in for some type of revenge and lit the building on fire. Well, the effects of that fire caused 5 other businesses to be out of business. So the effect was pretty devastating, and the property loss wound up being pretty significant.
And what do studies indicate about the arsonists themselves?
Well, in some cases, the arsonist is burning things for profit, or possibly domestic violence. If I can't have this home, you're not going to get it either. Those type of things. So, a lot of cases, the arsonist is someone that's unemployed or has some type of revenge or monetary gain.
Okay, now what about, say, arson for profit, those type of individuals? Who do they tend to be?
Well, you have the individual that may have a history of jumping from job to job or have financial troubles and may have gotten away with a smaller claim on the insurance company, so they may try bigger and better things. In some cases, it becomes arson. And some of your serial arsonists actually started out with small fires and small claims, and actually in some cases have turned into arson that's caused death to humans.
More good information. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Chief Kaufman, getting into the nitty-gritty of what we can do to minimize our chances of being an arson victim. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
And here are the answers to the spot quiz. First, what type of structures are hit by more arson than any other type? The structures most frequently set on fire by arsonists are residential structures. These homes and apartments make up 1/3 of all structure fires started by arson. Next, what can you do to your house to make it less attractive to arsonists? Put outdoor lights around your entire home. Paint your home a light color. And keep your firewood and other combustible materials out of sight and away from the house. What can a business owner do to minimize chances of arson in the office building? A business owner can make sure boiler rooms and storage rooms are neat and free from combustibles that might make it easier for an arsonist to start a fire. Also, employers should make sure only present employees have keys to the building. If not, get new locks and keys made. And finally, your church wants to minimize the chances of being hit by arson. What's one thing that can be done? Many church buildings are open and inviting in the front, but the rear of the building should be enclosed with a chain link fence. Privacy fences could actually help the arsonist avoid detection. Those are the answers to the Arson Spot Quiz. Stay tuned for more Facts on Fire.
More than 4,000 Americans die each year in fires. Nearly 80% of those happen in the home. That's why it's so important to have working smoke alarms. They can double your chances of surviving a fire. Place a smoke alarm on each level of your house. Check smoke alarms monthly to make sure they work. Change the batteries twice a year. And teach children what to do when they hear the alarm sound. Keep your home safe. Don't play with fire.
Did you know that according to the latest statistics, firemen respond to fires in America every 18 seconds, and they battle almost 1.7 million fires a year? If you hear or see fire trucks or other emergency vehicles approaching, move off the road and allow them to pass. The quicker firemen get to the fire, the greater chance they have of saving life and property. Stay tuned for more facts on fire.
Welcome back. I'm talking with Fire Prevention Chief Chris Kaufman about arson. Chief, I know in many cases, arson victims didn't have a chance to prevent themselves from becoming a victim of arson, even though some of those could have been prevented. What can a homeowner do to protect themselves or keep from becoming a victim of arson?
Well, Chris, about a quarter of all arson fires in the United States account for property loss. Some of the tips that you can take to minimize being a victim in your home or in your workplace or even at a church. You want to install motion lights around your house. If you're not going to be home for several days, have your lights on a timer to where they'll come on where it appears someone is home. Paint your house a light color. Make sure that your doors are locked, that your windows are also locked in your home. Park your vehicle in the garage. If it has to be parked on the street, make sure your car is locked. Those type of things.
And what about neighborhood watch programs? Are they effective to prevent arson?
Neighborhood watch programs are excellent. Obviously, the more eyes, the better. Make sure if you have strangers in your neighborhood that the community knows to take notes. Write down someone's license number from their vehicle. If someone is a stranger or appears to be a serviceman in the neighborhood, question it. Make sure that person is who they say they are. So you want to make sure that your neighborhood watch program is effective. So if you keep these tips in mind, I think you can make your neighborhood a safer place.
Now, are there any key times or peak times that we need to really look out for, say like certain holidays or activities?
Exactly. The peak time of year, as we call the holidays, New Year's Eve, Halloween. Halloween's a big one when you wear costumes and you really don't know who the people are. So take extra precaution on the special event days, even Super Bowl, those kind of things. You know, keep in mind that's when the crimes are going to happen.
All right. Any tips for preventing arson in the workplace?
Well, in the workplace, you can keep your shrubs around your property cut down, or your mechanical rooms, keep them clean. Keep any flammable or combustible liquids locked up in a cabinet. If you have any disgruntled employees or ex-employees, you want to make sure that they don't have any keys to your building. So if there's a doubt, change the locks on your building would be the first thing, and obviously keep your building a clean place, and will probably prevent anyone from targeting your business as a potential arson situation.
And once more, obviously, we'd want to have some type of escape plan in place at our place of business, right?
Exactly. The place of business is just like being at home. The only difference is in most cases you won't see people sleeping at their business. So you want to have evacuation plans posted in your business. Make sure all the employees know the exits. And I would recommend that the employees practice that escape plan no different than you would do if you were at home.
Are there any other special places or any other places where this special advice may come in handy to help prevent arson?
Yes, Chris. In some cases, churches may want to take some of these tips. You want to have some security around your church. You want to put a fence up in the rear of the building. You want to put a chain link fence up, not a privacy fence to where you can't see the back of the building. Arsonists are like any other criminals. They want to work in the dark. So you don't want to help them do their jobs. Keep a chain link fence around the rear of the building to where your building is fully exposed. And you could also get some help from the neighbors. They'll know if anybody's around your building. And I think it might prevent the churches from becoming victims.
And what about college dormitories?
College dormitories are accounting for about 1,700 fires a year. In some cases, you have smoke alarm systems or fire alarm systems and sprinkler systems. I'd recommend having an escape plan. If your children are staying in a dorm at any college, I'd recommend that you make sure that they have some of those safety features. The fire alarm system and sprinkler system will definitely protect them in the event they have a fire.
You said 1,700. That's a large number. Is that including the apartments off campus where students live, or is that just dormitories on campus?
That's dormitories on campus. That's not including apartment buildings away from campuses. And there's other fires that happen in those apartment complexes as well.
Okay, now let's just say I live in a college dormitory or one of those apartments and a fire starts in someone else's living space. What should I do? Say if an arsonist is targeting another person.
Well, first of all, you want to have an escape plan, no different than you were living in your own home. You want to have that escape plan and know where your exits are and have an alternate route. And always, keep the same items we recommend in your home. Keep the flashlights, the whistles. In the event that you're trapped, that you can make some kind of noise or some kind of action to let the fire department know that you're trapped. So you want to make sure that you have an escape plan and practice it just as you would at home.
So you want to make sure that you do have smoke alarms or smoke detectors, sprinkler systems, and all those things to help protect you as well.
Exactly. And if there's a case where you don't have a smoke alarm, I would recommend bringing one with you and install one yourself.
And what if I live in an apartment complex or a dormitory and I actually hear the fire alarm activated? What should I do?
Actually, you want to make sure you exit the apartment or the dormitory as quickly as possible. Don't be laxed. Don't think that it's an alarm malfunction. Exit the building as quickly as possible to a safe place outside.
And what about vandalism and tampering? Is it possible, or have you seen any cases or heard anything about arsonists that would actually go out and disable an alarm system or a sprinkler system, say in a residential establishment, to cause more damage or injury?
In some cases that can happen. If you're a target of an arsonist, you may have someone that would disable one of those systems. And if the system goes off, again, I would recommend that you exit the building as quickly as possible. In the event getting out the building, if your clothes catch on fire, stop, drop, and roll. Remember to crawl below the smoke. Remember all the same things we teach children or young adults to do in fire safety. If you keep those things in mind, you can safely escape one of these apartments or dormitories.
And I know, as with any criminal, an arsonist is an opportunist. Is there some things we could do around the house or around our home to help minimize some of the effects or some of the things that they could use to commit arson?
Well, you want to take away anything that could possibly help them. Cut the shrubs down low around your property. You don't want the arsonist hiding in the bushes. Or you want to be able to detect someone that's suspicious in the apartment complex or the dormitory, someone that shouldn't be there. And in any case, you want to call 911 and report that suspicious person. So you want to take every precaution, anything that's out the ordinary, and report it.
I know another concern is fuels left around the house unattended, or just automobile fuels, wood piles, stuff like that. Are those concerns?
Definitely, Chris. You want to make sure that we don't leave anything behind that an arsonist can use to help them set fire to anyone's property. We want to keep the gasoline cans, the propane tanks, those kind of things away from the outside of your house or your apartment or your dormitory. So you want to keep the wood piles, anything that can be a potential fire hazard. Keep those things away from the outside of the house, because you're inviting the arsonist to use the things you left outside. So anything you can do to remove those items would help you to prevent yourself becoming a victim.
Now, what if a wildfire that was started by an arsonist threatens my home if I live in a rural area? What are some things I can do to kind of minimize my risk there?
Well, first of all, I would tell you to keep a buffer zone around 30 feet around your property. Keep the shrubs trimmed up around 10 feet from grade level. Keep any firewood away from the outside walls of the house, and keep your roof cleaned off. I mean, that's the leading cause of the wildland fires burning the houses down, is they're catching the roofs on fire. So maybe keep your roof cleaned off, and use fire-resistant materials on the roof, and maybe brick veneer, those kind of things on the outside of your house that'll help prevent the fires from burning your house down.
And funny you mentioned roofs. I recently learned that some of the earliest codes established in the United States were dealing with roofing materials. From working out west, I know that they're not allowed to have the shake shingle type roofs like we do here. And is that a result of arson, or is that just a result of good fire prevention practice to prevent the spread of fires?
And actually, that's a good fire prevention information. You want to the asphalt shingle obviously is gonna burn. It has products that are made up in the shingle that will accelerate that fire. So again, that's a good fire prevention tip. And you know, you want to keep the fire resistant products on your roof is the best advice I can give you.
Now, how about abandoned homes, places of such? Is that a problem as well?
Yes, abandoned homes are always a problem, because the vagrants, even juveniles that walk in the neighborhood, they're going to use those abandoned structures and either set fires or play around the house or even do drugs. So those things I would contact my code enforcement agencies, whether it be the fire inspectors or the building permit office, and have those abandoned structures actually demolished and remove them from your community. So you're removing that fire hazard or that potential fire scene or crime scene.
Thank you, Chief Kaufman. Some great information. May save some lives. I hope it does.
Thank you for having me.
We hope you will take this important fire prevention information to heart. Hundreds of lives and thousands upon thousands of dollars of property are at stake because of curious children and malicious arsonists.
Here's a summary of how you can minimize your chances of being an arson victim. Install lights around your house. Motion-activated lights are also effective and inexpensive. Paint your home a light color. This makes it easier for the general public to spot an arsonist. Keep your house doors and windows locked, and keep your car locked as well. Be vigilant about suspicious people in your neighborhood, and report any strange activity immediately. Educate your children about fire safety. Finally, use working smoke alarms, a sprinkler system, and a good escape plan to prepare your family for a real fire. There's no replacement for preparation when it comes to fire safety. More people in America die from fire than all other natural disasters combined. Make sure you know the facts on fire and then make plans for a safe escape.
History reveals that ancient people used fire to destroy enemy homes and crops. Today, fire continues to be destructive when it's in the wrong hands, whether it be the hands of a child or the hands of an arsonist. Take precautions, be wise, and educate other people, particularly your children, about the dangers of fire. Think of the lives, the property, and the money that can be saved if you use today's facts on fire. Thanks for watching.